Thanks for staying with us. Joining us on the show this morning is the Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola, SAN. He will be speaking on Nigerian roads, housing, and the upcoming elections. Welcome to the show, sir. Good to have you.
Happy New Year.
Happy
It's
New
a
Year.
pleasure to be here.
So, we have a lot to talk to you about. In fact, the cooler is this high.
Plenty.
So, starting quickly, I'm going to go straight right into it. The first, obviously, is the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, which Nigerians have been very concerned. The fact that it's protracted issues of the perennial traffic. And then the holidays came. You were gracious enough to remove the blockages, the barriers. But unfortunately, they're back. And now people are coming home and they're feeling like this traffic has all started over again. Could you give us an idea on how long it's going to take for this road to complete? Because we're told December 2022. They begged us now that, we have to wait to Q1. Q1 is a bit relative or is a bit vague. Can we have a date that Lagos-Ibadan Expressway will be completed? And what caused the delay in the first place?
Major source of delay, and let me start again by expressing my appreciation to commuters who use that road, a major transport artery for Nigeria, and for their forbearance thus far, and for their understanding as well. But this road could have been built between 1999 and 2015. It wasn't built. So, and from 2015, when this government took over, undoubtedly and undebatably, it is making clearly much progress. It's a better road than we inherited, and it is now at the last mile of completion. Main source of delay first is funding. You remember at one time when the road was removed from the budget completely, and I was engaged in the National Assembly until the president then inaugurated the Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund, which was essentially investment incomes from the Nigerian liquefied natural gas, and also funds recovered from outside Nigeria. And so when people talk about corruption and anti-corruption, whatever, a president who goes to recover stolen funds and put it in investment for his people is the real anti-corruption as far as I'm concerned. You're seeing what is being done with the money. But more importantly is to explain why the barriers are there. We are building through a major transport artery. Our last traffic count indicates that at least 40,000 vehicles use that road from the Lagos end to the Shagamu end. After Shagamu, the traffic drops to about 23,000. So that has to be managed to ensure the safety of the construction workers. And that is why you have barriers and diversions. You will agree with me that the Lagos end coming into Ojota is the most built-up part of the road, very densely populated. Residences have sprung up, businesses, factories. So we left that part for the last. Now, why did we close? Traditionally, in December, people may not be aware, the construction industry shuts down by mid-December and resumes around the middle of January. So we then thought, okay, that was a good time also, since we're not building during that period, just doing maintenance and limited maintenance, open up the barriers so that they can move. That really is the long and short of it. Now, when will it finish? Touchwood, we're expecting, as you said, to finish it in the first quarter. But trust me, perhaps we don't pay attention to it. It is in that same gridlock when people either are impatient sometimes, when they drive against oncoming traffic, disobey the diversions and signs. It is in that same gridlock that our construction material moves. So most of the construction materials we use comes from Ogun State. So these are things, when we lose a day, we try to recover. If we lose a week, we try to recover it. So these are moving targets.
As a follow-up, I know the late one asked but as a follow-up, the issue is not your construction. Our problem is not your construction. Our problem is the inability of those officers there to control traffic properly, or your relationship with either Julius Berger or whoever it is there. So construction will always go on. But how do you ensure, as a minister, that there's free flow of traffic.
Now, you see, you cannot expect, and I think that is perhaps where we must do more advocacy. If you were driving from Shagamu towards Lagos and you were going at 100 kilometers per hour, you cannot expect that when you get to the construction zone, you'll be driving at the same speed. So people must understand that there will be some slowdown. And it is in that slowdown that how we behave becomes very, very important. And that is really what causes the lockdown. Impatience sometimes also vehicles just break down, sometimes, and so this is the responsibility of the Federal Road Safety Corps, who have statutory responsibility for law enforcement. And one of the things I've said publicly is that the time has come really to begin to enforce compliance with road safety law, especially to ensure first that only properly certified drivers are on the road. A lot of people driving who shouldn't be driving. So that's part of the gridlock and behavior and impatience and all of that. But this will go clearly in a matter of a few months.
So as a follow-up, sir, just to see if this could help, would it have helped if they were moving building materials at night, at hours where traffic was a bit slower? Or, you know, could they even have used lights to light up the area and work at odd hours to ease
all of this
all?
have been done at some point or the other. But if you understand construction, there are certain things you can't do at night in construction. So yes, you can move the materials at night in some places, but there are some things you just can't do at night. There are some things that can be done at night. So, and we've tried all of these options. And each one has, none of it is free of its challenges. And we're doing the best we can in the circumstances. Even also, you might not be aware of it, and I don't think the public wants to know this. The public just wants to know when it's going to be done. So prices of construction materials have moved. So again, diesel, I think, used to be 160 something or 200, and it's moved. So the contractors are saying, look, we can't deliver this. So again, we have to start a process of revising the contract costs. So we've had a lot of laws that says you can't move contract price without going back to FEC, without going back to BPP, and this is a queue. So sometimes when you hear me complain about our procurement laws and how it has slowed down the development of the country, these are some of the things. But hey, the reason why we have this job is to get it done.
Yes. So still on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, we commend the work that's going on, but as we had already mentioned, there are some human interest issues that come up. And one of the things that have been major, especially around construction areas, is security. Because of the gridlock and, you know, people, some unscrupulous people will take advantage. And I would just like to know, now that the barriers have been put back in place, the traffic is back, what would we be doing? What would your ministry be doing differently in collaboration with the other agencies to make sure that in 2023, passengers, commuters do not go through those security issues that we had last year?
I like the in collaboration part because it clearly underlies your knowledge and appreciation of the fact that I am not in charge of the security. And there have been initiatives in the past, and not only on this route, but across other routes too. And we also are aware that subnational governments, state governments, are also mobilizing support and resources. If you follow the conversation towards the end of Christmas, Lagos, Ogun, and Oyo, through the Amotekun and related law enforcement corps, mobilized there. One government, I think it was said, they were even deploying some level of technology to monitor, provide surveillance. So all of this is work being done to ensure that ultimate safety of all the commuters who use the road.
Thanks for staying with us. We still have Honorable Minister Fashola with us. Congratulations on the second Niger Bridge. It opened to the public. I mean, lots of Nigerians were really happy to be able to go home, you know, with ease. Our question is, we're hearing that not all parts of the road are opened, that they're still waiting for it. There's a final phase. And we're also asking, how many more of these big projects across the country are we expecting before the end of this administration?
So, I think I'd like to start by asking us to ask ourselves, between 1999 and 2015, what did the government at the center promise Nigerians? Can you remember something? Whether it was 7-point agenda, they changed to 5-point agenda. Whether it was Vision 2010, they changed to Vision whatever. It was just a cacophony of unclarity. Now, ask yourself, between that, what did they promise? Because people now hold us to security, economy, and anti-corruption. And this says a lot about this government. It's clear definition of the problem before it came into office. So when people now say, oh, yes, they have done infrastructure, but the economy. The truth is that we didn't campaign on infrastructure. We campaigned on the economy. And there's no way you're going to build an economy without addressing the fundamentals of the infrastructure. Whether it's export or import business, it needs ports, it needs roads, it needs bridges, it needs seaports, it needs airports, and so on. So this is the purpose of infrastructure. So when people talk about poverty, multidimensional monetary policy, the second Niger bridge and all the other infrastructure are examples of clarity of choices and investments to address poverty, both the multidimensional and the monetary. So let me speak to that. The old bridge has had its capacity dwarfed. When it was built, this economy was not this big, the population was not this large, businesses were not this many. And so that poverty will continue unless there is a new bridge. And that bridge has been the subject of promises at the time when there were prolific oil revenues. But this president, this government have said whatever it takes, including repatriating stolen money, we'll put it in that bridge. So opening it up in December was a way to verify whether the solution, which is the construction of the bridge, actually works. Because the choice was build another bridge. And even though there's 3 or 4 kilometers of connecting road, dual carriage connecting road to the Asaba end, there's a construction road that we were using to move materials. And we thought, why not? The bridge is ready. Let people use it. And the relief and the impact was very, very well received. And it just shows now we're going to close down. So that was the purpose, to make life better, to reduce journey time. You shouldn't spend 18 hours crossing a 2-kilometer river. That is the whole purpose of that bridge. And it clearly shows that President Buhari has the solution to that problem. Now, in terms of poverty, let us deal with the monetary poverty. For about 7 years during the construction, over 4,000 people were directly employed on that bridge. So that deals with monetary poverty. I had said on this show, 19 million liters of diesel was used to construct that bridge. That diesel was not supplied by Julius Berger. They are subcontractors. So that's how you see an economy. And you can't imagine the quantity of reinforcement, iron, rod, cement, and the supplementary business. Now, on the multidimensional side, so what used to take 18 hours to cross, time loss, business inefficiency, it was now a few minutes. So you will see ease of doing business, efficiency. So when people are talking about inflation, I wonder whether we focus on cost-push inflation as a measure of how long it takes to get things done. This is the answer, or this is part of the answer in infrastructure nationwide.
Just as a follow-up, some have criticized that, this administration did not start the second Niger bridge. At what state was it when you took over, if truly that's the situation?
The abutment, which is where you want to start climbing the bridge, was being constructed, just the abutment. So all the piling works were done by this government. And it really doesn't matter for me whether you say who started it. We don't own it. Nigerians own it. Yeah. The truth is that Nigerians needed it. There was a period of about 7 years where we were earning over $100 per barrel from oil. If it was such an important priority for you, why didn't you do it? So to now start bickering, oh, you didn't start it, you finish it, it's been done.
And we own it, Nigerians.
Nigerians own it.
There's one other work that you have done that I must confess, I wasn't really aware of this until, I read a report where you're saying we're serious, we're talking about the second Niger Bridge, but there is one particular one we should also be celebrating. That's the local Oweto Bridge. So that's the bridge that crosses over the river Benue, and it links the north to the south. Please, sir, could you just elaborate on this for us?
Okay, so when I took office in 2015, Local Oweto was a project that was already awarded, but it wasn't funded, so no work was being done. So I went there to see, and no bridge had been built. And I then told the contractors to just start work, and that we will find monies for them. So if you saw my last trip, you see signs of the sukuk. Okay. So that's where the money largely came from, to build that bridge. Okay. So when we are talking about borrowing and debt, people forget that there was public debt of over 12 trillion when this government took office. But where was the infrastructure? So if you are talking about debt now, you are seeing a second Niger Bridge, you are seeing a local Oweto Bridge, you are seeing Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, you are seeing 4 or 5 new airports, you are seeing a seaport, you are seeing investment into a refinery to help private sector conclude and stop the importation of crude oil. That's part of what accounts for the debt. Okay. And this is the investment that is going to release Nigeria's economy long after Buhari is gone. Local Oweto is so defining. As I said, there's a lot of emotion, and because it was based on failed promises, and one understands it about the second Niger Bridge. It was always a political tool. Yeah. And so I understand the emotion about it. But Local Oweto is as big, if not bigger, than the second Niger Bridge. Because if you're coming from the east of Nigeria and you are coming to Abuja through Benue and through Nasarawa, you will have to drive before this bridge into Lafia, even if you had no business in Lafia, before you get to Kefi. Now, what this bridge has done is to obviate the need to go into Lafia, and you will cross the bridge from Oshogbedo in Benue, land in Loko, and drive straight to Kefi. That would have cut off 4 hours from your journey time. So if you are talking economics and you are a transporter and you gain 4 hours saving, clearly you will see it over the years later in the cost of goods and services.
Let me go on Twitter quickly. So our tweets are coming in, and everybody on this side of the Lagos-Abeokuta Expressway are tweeting and asking the minister why the Lagos-Abeokuta Expressway was abandoned as compared to the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. What exactly was the priorities like when you decided? The state of which it is now, most tweets are referring to both state governors on both ends, saying it's a federal road, and so they are absorbing themselves of not investing anything.
Okay, so let me start first by saying that I hear the concerns about Lagos-Abeokuta, and there are people that we should have asked since 1999 why Lagos or Abeokuta was not built. But that's looking back, we're looking forward. I can say categorically on this seat that all the roads that lead into and out of Lagos as a strategic commercial capital of Nigeria are receiving one form of attention or the other. And before I come to Lagos or to Abeokuta, let me tell you about Ikorodu to Shagamu. Let me tell you about Lagos to Badagry. Let me tell you, and we have spoken about Lagos-Ibadan. So Lagos to Abeokuta is the last one. Again, the contractor had abandoned site when we came, and we revived it. And we're putting the sukuk into it. And I think this last sukuk, there was about 7 billion in it. So we don't have all of the money to build it. Now, I understand that there is much pain on the Ogun side. But on the Lagos side, work is going on. So the contractor is constructing from Lagos towards Ogun. And it is the Ogun side where you will see all the potholes and the pain, because the contractor hasn't reached there. In a matter of weeks, I am hopeful, touch wood, that we will have a more enduring financing solution, not only to Lagos or Abeokuta, but also to Akure and Ado-Ekiti. In a matter of weeks, we should have a financing solution. And once that is done, whether we are there in government or not, those roads will be constructed. Okay. So that is what I am working on now.
Could you explain to Nigerians why we would need to toll the Lagos-Ibadan road, the second Niger Bridge? As you know, Nigerians, we don't like to hear that we have to be paying extra for plying our road. After all, it's our own. So why do we need to do this?
Well, I think that, first of all, is to understand that out of about 200,000 plus kilometers, the total quantity of roads that will be under the tolling policy approved by government is barely 5% of that. So it's not such a large volume of roads that will be tolled. But Lagos or Ibadan, for example, was built as a toll road in any event from day one. And when we also want to sustain quality of service, maintenance, and all of that, I think it is only sensible that those type of roads that have high volumes of traffic can be subject to those kind of commercial policies in order not just to raise revenues to maintain the roads, but tolling and its concomitant services are also part of economic expansion and creation. Tolling itself globally is a business. So it's not my children or the president's children who will be managing, operating the toll stations, but that's new employment. We have to continue to open up all of the possible vistas of economic opportunities in this country. We can't just stay with agri, oil, tech, and all of that. We haven't opened up the economy of sports, for example. And so there's so much. We really have no business with the challenges we're facing. But one after the other, once you build the foundation, which is infrastructure, you can't have sports also without journeys to stadium, to theaters, and all of that. So the fundamentals are what this government is putting in place. And I challenge any of our opponents to provide an alternative solution. And I haven't heard it. How can you run an economy without infrastructure? Whether you want to import, whether you want to expand, whether you want to produce, whatever you want to do.
I've always heard complaints about, from the government especially, that people steal materials from sites, where people have been unpatriotic in many ways. Even burning, I hear that some people burn some of these things under the bridges. What have you done to mitigate this going forward?
Well, they manifest themselves in many ways. In terms of stealing, for example, we have gone back to research and development. We've seen that some of the aluminum rails have commercial secondary value, so we've taken them out. You see that most of the rails on bridges now are concrete. Okay. We've seen, for example, that wrought iron, which is used to build grates and manholes, have commercial secondary value. It's just a mentality that we must get rid of. But while it is there, we're providing either using concrete and just welding it up, plastering it or sealing it up to ensure that citizens, commuters, road users don't then get injuries as a result of accidents that happen. But long-term solution is a total education and mindset change starting from the primary school that, look, these assets really are not worth the effort.
Yes.
You are
So talking about durability again, based on just the example that you gave, the Eco Bridge Akpongo End example, how durable are these new bridges? And to avoid this kind of human factor damages that we suffered there, what are you doing to secure so that there are no activities of human existence under the bridges so that we don't fall back on this kind of things? And then when is Akpongo Bridge likely to be reopened? Okay,
this is a multi-way. Okay, this is a multi-way solution. So we can point our fingers at the people who turned the under Akpongo Bridge into a market, right? And where they were cooking, they were selling. But look, what were they selling around Akpongo? Alcoholic beverages. They are not cheap. So it was the rich and the elite of this country who chose to shop there.
From under the bridge. They buy it from the mall, sir, from the supermarket.
No, go there. I know. So that's my neighborhood too. Okay. Ulogbo, Ofin, and all of that. That's my neighborhood. So again, we can point fingers at those people, yes, but some of the fingers should be pointing at ourselves too. Because by patronizing those markets, we have lost a major transport asset. Everybody is now suffering.
Seriously.
And in terms of when it will be ready, we were hopeful that we could finish it before Christmas, But most of the equipment that we imported or fabricated locally to restore the safety of the pillars suddenly had to be diverted to the Ijora fire. When that happened, you see how all those steel frames were made. So we had to quickly, because that became a bigger emergency in the Ijora fire.
Right.
And so we have to re-import, refabricate. So we're looking at sometime in May this year.
Yeah.
Hopefully that
Let me move to housing, because we have very little time. There's so much we need to talk on to you. Many people have said that you focus a bit on infrastructure and roads, that they've not seen much in housing. Others have said that you've built houses in places where nobody can live, you know, in the outskirts of cities, people very far away from the cities. And I know the last time we spoke some time ago, you had said that they were putting together some kind of a mortgage plan. Could you give us an update on housing in Nigeria, where we are, and how far do you think we would have gone by the time your administration ends in May?
All right. We have a Department of Public Building and Housing Development. So they're in charge of public buildings. So they're not just in charge of houses, all other public buildings. So let me start from the general public buildings. This year, President Buhari will be inaugurating and handing over 4 new federal secretariats. They're massive projects in Oka in Anambra, in Lafia in Nasarawa, in Bayelsa, in Yenegua in Bayelsa, and in Gusau in Zamfara State. We will also be handing over the Zuba Housing Estate in Abuja, 78 blocks, 748 housing units in there. And this is just one part. In the last 12 months, he has asked his ministers to go to their states to hand over the National Housing Program projects, which have been completed. Some are in phase 1, some are in phase 3, depending on the land that we get from the states. And this has happened in many states. It was from those houses, for example, that the Super Eagles pledge and promise made 28 years ago to redeem, give them houses, that this president has redeemed that pledge. He has redeemed that of Westhoff and who are the other coaches. So this is going on in 35 states, and the ministers in each state are going to hand over and commission. People are already buying using our online portal. But that is only part of the story. We have a 6,000 or 7,000 housing unit program across Nigeria completed through one of our subsidiaries, the Federal Mortgage Bank, one of our parastatals, sorry, the Federal Mortgage Bank. The Federal Housing Authority is also building in sites and service and buildings in different parts of the country. So, and if people care to go to our website, you will see the details of all of this. So we're lifting as much as we can in housing as we are lifting in the roads and transport sector. But bear in mind also, at the end of the day, whether it's an office, whether it's your house, it's a destination. And you need the transport infrastructure to get there.
But
I'll just, can I ask, just, it was already asked, but you did not talk about it. And it's how Nigerians feel about some things when it's done. Like I personally, to hear that, oh, you're building houses in places that we cannot reach, sounds funny to me, but can the government tell Nigerians why that was why that's the option?
So I like to know specifically where is this place that
Lagos.
people cannot reach. Where?
we cannot get our own in Lagos.
No, because, so let's understand first how this national housing program started. The terms of engagement were clear. I have letters I wrote to the governors when we started, which was that give us 5 hectares of land and no more than 10 hectares. Give us those sizes of land where there is an access route or where you plan to build an access road. Our government is not responsible for building local roads. We are responsible for building interstate roads. So we will build the federal road that comes into that state. And this was the basis of that partnership. Now, the fact that there is no access road there in a third road does not mean that there won't be. Does not mean that there won't be. And if we don't continue to open out, build up, we always remember that we are supposedly about 200 million people. But I don't know if we are paying attention to the fact that we are densing up and we need to open out. And so, again, otherwise life will become difficult and intolerable to live. And we have land that we haven't used.
So I'm hearing you say that it's the government of the state that should open up those roads so that people can access the places, the
Wherever
land they've given
that
to
kind
you
of problem
to build.
exists,
Yes, right.
we have built the estate road.
Yes. Now build the inter. Okay.
Okay, you mentioned just earlier about building of refineries, building of an extra port terminal, I think. Just now when you were talking about other projects under your ministry, aside roads.
They're not under my ministry, they
the
are
government
government.
Under the government. Okay, please kindly elaborate on
So what I was saying was that, look, this economic message and plan of our party, our government, led by the president, is hinged first on building the infrastructure that makes the economy work. If you are an importer or an exporter and the port is not efficient, you are poor. So that speaks to the new Lekki seaport, where, again, government is giving support. If we are importing petroleum products, that is putting at least, as at the last check, a 30% demand on our need for foreign exchange, which we are not earning enough of. So government has said, okay, Dangote Group, what can we do? It says, I need some investment support. Government has put some equity to close out that project so that we start producing our petrol locally. So if this happens, one of the things you will see is an appreciation in the price of the naira to the dollar because demand has reduced by a component of close to 30%. So, and if you look at the Apapa Oroshoki Expressway, that leads to the biggest seaport and the busiest in Nigeria. So that road had broken down in 2015 when we came. So how can you import? How can you produce? How can you export? So the last missing piece is the electricity. And it's a work in progress.
Thus, sir, let me talk about the Lekki seaport you talked about earlier, the access road, because Nigerians, Lagosians especially, are concerned that when the project finally kicks off, it's going to become your area, Lagos, Badagry. There's going to be problems. Now, we're confused. Is it the responsibility of the state government to build that road? Because we know there's expansion going on already on that road. And we're saying, if it's Lagos State, what are you doing to support? Because people believe that there's more has to be done so that we don't have what we're having in Lagos Badagry at the Lekki Expressway when the seaport finally kicks off.
Well, you see what we already see, but we need to do things in a process. So just last week and over the Christmas break, these are conversations my team and I were having, and also with other residents of the state. But I assure you, there are multiple options on the table in order not just to expand the road network, but also to look at additional ways of trucking goods and cargo from that port, either barges or even, hopefully, if we choose and can finance it, a rail service to link to the Apapa rail service, because that one, the Lagos-Ibadan, was going into the Apapa port. So we're already thinking about it, choosing what is most efficient, costing it, and then implementing it, stages of our national development. So we just left a lot of things undone, and they are coalescing now at a time when our economy is just about to really unleash itself.
Okay, sir. You know, Nigerians, how we talk, we will say, oh, this present administration, they only think about a particular region of the country to, develop. Could you give us a picture, a big picture, a large picture of how projects are spread across Nigeria? And if you think it's equitable or if just a certain region is getting preferential treatment?
Well, what you allude to now about complaints about, oh, there is no this, there is no that. I haven't heard that narrative since I took office as Minister of Works and Housing, because if you look at what we've covered, out of 36 states and the FCT, we're building in 35, and the FCT, and the only state we are not building now is my own state. And it's simply because the government has now given us land, but the land has to be sand-filled. If we sand-fill it, it becomes very expensive to deliver. So governor says he's looking for another parcel of land. So all states essentially have been covered. If you look at the infrastructure, whether it is from Abuja to Kano, whether it is from Kano to Maiduguri, whether it is South-South, Port Harcourt, Bodo, Boni, whether it is Loko, Weto, whether it is Calabar to Dupani, Ogoja, Ikom, everywhere. And whether it is to the northwest, you will see us there. We're everywhere. And I've been to the 36 states. I've toured the 36 states by road twice. And now I'm making sport visits just to go and see where we are completing.
Right. You didn't talk about the Nigeria-Cameroon border bridge, the 1.5-kilometer border bridge. That is
okay, so again, that was a project that was supposed to have been executed after the cession of the Bakassi Peninsula to Cameroon. And part of, I believe, the Green Trees Agreement, that's what it's called, if I remember correctly, was that, look, you must continue to promote international harmony and allow people to be able to move. There's an old bridge there. So this is a new bridge funded by the African Development Bank. We executed the contract. I think we awarded in 2017 or 2018. It's finished. But it's not just now about Nigeria and Cameroon. This is linking West Africa to North Central Africa and to Central Africa. And also, because we have now signed the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. So this is also part of that economy that we are talking about. If you go to Aba, Aba is a major shopping destination for people from the Cameroon Republic and the Central African Republic. So just like Dubai is a major shopping center for certain types of Nigerians, our own Aba here is a major place where they come and import and buy goods. So this road makes that link even more efficient now because it takes you from Cross River into Enugu to Abakaliki.
Okay.
That's the link.
It's beautiful.
Can
Yes,
a question here. So Emmanuel Itodo says, can the Honorable Minister comfortably assert that his ministry has done well in road infrastructure in Nigeria? What criteria does the ministry use in selecting roads? And why is Makurdi Otupo Enugu Road in complete shambles?
Makurdi Otupo, I believe we have a contractor there. There are funding challenges. And in reference to his question, I can say so that we have done a lot. We have done well, even if I say so, I'm my own strongest critic. We have moved the needle significantly far better than what we met. We met a budget of 18 billion for Nigeria's roads in 2015. What was that going to do?
Remember you said that.
And at that time, oil prices were $97 per barrel, $95 per barrel. So we've done significantly better with the leadership and the support, not only of the president, but also my colleagues in cabinet and members of parliament too.
Okay, so I was part of the journalist team that taught the Apapa Woroshoki Express Road construction, and I was shocked to see how complete it was, that was about 90% complete at the time we taught. And the issues of Apapa did not disappear because the roads are now properly done. The issues still persist. What exactly would you say is the cause of Apapa's problem?
It's now a matter of law enforcement. I was there, I think, on the 29th of December. I think I went there, either 27th or 29th, I don't quite remember. And we toured the road from Tollgate to the port. And essentially, the Dangote Group, which is the PPP model we use under the Executive Order 7, the tax credit policy, has almost finished the road. What they're doing now is installation of the street lights and the furniture, and also Section 2A between Snake Island and Berger, which we did not want to do initially because it was in very good condition at the time. But what has taken over is motorcycles, markets, people trading under umbrellas right in the middle of a road, people taking over the setback, people changing engine, running mechanic workshop. So all of that must go. And it must be a federal government, state government, and local government collaboration to get rid of all of that. This is just a failure of law and order, and that allows people to do that. And there are laws which make these things criminal or punishable, whether by fine or by some other sentence. So this is is change of human behavior, essentially.
It's a question I've been always meaning to ask you for many years, and it's just out of curiosity. When I drive around Lagos, I see a lot of abandoned federal buildings. These are buildings that used to be there during the military regime, and they're there, occupying space. And I'm thinking to myself, can't some of these be pulled down for housing? Can't they be pulled down for converting to commercial hubs? I mean, what are you doing, and what kind of relationship do you have with the government of Lagos State to see how we can use some of these? They're just there, standing, like eyesores.
Okay, so some of those buildings are offices or office buildings. Some of them are also residential buildings. So one of the things we have done in the last 6 years is to assist government to even develop an inventory of what she owns.
Okay.
So that's a work in progress. But it's also to point out that the previous government had sold most of these assets.
Okay.
And so they are no longer, many of them that you see are no longer government buildings.
Oh.
Those who bought them are now the ones who are perhaps struggling with what to do with them.
Okay.
What has not been sold has been managed by a presidential implementation committee domiciled in the presidency. Okay? So I hear you, and what you speak to really is an urban planning and urban development issue. Yeah. I have no jurisdiction over that. The Supreme Court has decided that urban planning and development is a state matter. But we will be ready.
Have you been approached by the state concerning some of these things?
No. Okay. Not that I can recall off my head.
Well, let me take the call. I think I have a caller. Good morning. Are you there? Okay, I lost that call. Let's take a few comments on social media and wrap up on this.
Oh. Yes, so many. So, Omo Federal says, Mr. BRF, please, sir, can I respond? So, BRF, can you please share with us the website of your ministry so that Nigerians can access it?
Google it.
Google it, please.
This one says, what's the website for the housing? And then, is there any housing project in Rivers State?
Let's stay with housing. Let me start. In Rivers State housing, they're asking about that. And
there is a housing project in Rivers State.
Would you speak to the mortgage? Because I know there was a time you were talking about the mortgage where you pay in installments. Is that still ongoing, or that's been cancelled?
No. There is a federal mortgage bank, so let's not forget that. And the whole idea of mortgage universally is to allow you to pay on an instrumental basis. So that is still there. What we have done that has changed from what used to be is that the thresholds for qualification, we have lowered them. Traditionally, if you want to take a mortgage, you have to part finance by equity. So if you were taking, for example, 5 million and below, those were the old thresholds, you needed to put up 10%. Some people just couldn't find 500,000 naira. So as a matter of policy, we said, take it out.
Okay.
If the person qualifies on all the parameters, remove the equity contribution so that that person can get the mortgage. And that has opened access to many other people who are at that threshold of engagement. If you needed to take 5 million up to, I think, 15 or 20 million, the equity contribution used to be 15%. And that's a larger volume. We have said, okay, take out 5% out of that. Reduce the entry qualification because those are bigger players and they should be able to have, they're not as vulnerable as the 5 to 0.
Let me take this call from Yakub. Good morning, Yakub. Are you there?
Yeah,
sorry for keeping you. Go ahead, please.
Good morning to Honorable Minister There's no doubt about it. Your ministry has done a very wonderful job in this country. And stand to be corrected. I've never seen a minister that works the way you do. But, sir, with due respect, there's a road that's so damaged to us there, especially a road from Abule-Egba, immediately after the bridge of Abule-Egba, precisely from Ahmadiyya down to Togate and down to Stinga after Songo Bridge. Yes, coming from Abeokuta to Lagos, it has been done. Well, okay. Anybody come from Ifo, between 30 minutes to get to Lagos. But from Lagos down to Ifo, it is so bad. And then they will do a little job, and then before you know, they will see them there. What is the really problem going on in that road?
Thank you, Yakub. Yes.
The real problem, as I said earlier, if you were listening, is the funding problem. So the contractor wants to construct the road, which is his main contract. So those little jobs that you say they do are relief jobs, just to make it easy for commuters. But those parts have not been reconstructed. They are palliatives, if you like. Because that road has failed completely, it had to be redesigned and reconstructed. So when you see those relief, please do not mistake them for the job having been done. They are relief, they will wash away because the fundamentals of reconstruction have not taken place there. And that is why you can see, as you rightly said, there is completed works on one part, it is yet to be completed on another part. And this work, construction is done on an incremental basis anyway. So, and we will get there. And as I said earlier before you called in, we are looking at some other funding plans that I hope will come into hand soon enough. And once we conclude that, as I said, whether we are still in office, whether I'm still in office or not, if we put that funding plan in place, whoever takes my job should be able to finish.
Okay, we still have with us Minister Fashola. This last lap of this conversation, we're talking to you now as Lagosians, as our former governor. We're not discussing to you, you're not discussing with you just as regular people, but we're as Lagosians, telling you, asking you to tell us the truth and speak to us as your constituents. You're a former governor of this state. You led this state. And many have alluded your success to your, the forebearer, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who was before you. And many have also said that he started the projects, and many the concepts, the ideas and the blueprints, and idea of what Lagos should be, which you worked on, and even what Babajide Sanwo-Olu is working on now. But many still feel that Asiwaju shouldn't be running for president today. In your view, because they feel, he has already led Lagos, and we've seen the success of Lagos, why is he running for presidency? Does he need to say that he's a Milokon? He's a party leader. He should remain a Afobaje, not a leader. What are your thoughts? Do you think Asiwaju indeed has the capacity to lead this country?
Without a doubt in my mind, I've worked with him, and I was his chief of staff for 4.5 years. So I worked with him on a minimum basis of about 14 hours a day. So I saw him at close quarters. You underestimate his resilience and you underestimate his intelligence at your own peril. And go and read the tribute I wrote when he turned 60. So, yes, but he's a much older man. And one side of the question is okay because he's older. The other side is that what is on offer on the other side? Is there not something inherently or altruistically patriotic about this one that in spite of this, I want to do this for my country? And what does he want to do for his country? You know, when people talk about what he did in Lagos, and I think you localize it when you even focus it on Lagos, but let us remember that the first state bond for infrastructure and development in this country was raised during his term as governor. And it was raised in spite of a federal PDP opposition, saying that it couldn't be done. But that is the model, that is the pathway that all states now follow to raise funding. So there was a funding problem. We still have a funding problem, a revenue problem. IGR expansion his model is the model that all the states have now followed. So why are you hiding behind a finger? So Nigeria has similar problems. We need to expand our revenue base. And so this is what he's offering. When people were struggling with access to justice, Office of the Public Defender was created here. The last time I checked, 10 other states, including opposition, have created their own version of the Office of Public Defender. So even those who oppose him adopt his policies. The Lagos State Advertising and Signage Agency, LASA, was not just to reform and strengthen and reposition advertising business, it was to increase local government revenues, who have the constitutional responsibility for outdoor signage and advertising. The last time I checked, if you check, 15 states in Nigeria have passed their own version of LASA. And 16 states have passed their own version of LASTMA. All of his policies have gained resonance nationwide, even by his most virulent critics. And he's saying now, I want to do this on a national scale. And you're asking me whether I should run. I will vote for him. And I'm campaigning for him. And let the opponents come and show us what they have done. Because we are now saying from local to national. What have you done? And you know the interesting thing? All of them held public office. All of them, at least the front runners.
The records are there.
So what have you done that has had national appeal, national acceptance, and national sustainability as to qualify you for this job? So it's not about how old the man is. Even his older version is better than any of their younger versions as I speak today. Because I've seen all of them at work, and I've taken time to objectively analyze what they have done. So you would hear that one of the candidates says, oh, yes, I'm going to privatize. We did privatization. Privatization of what? The privatization process started during Ibrahim Babangida, 1986. That was when the law was passed. And then you say you privatize, and that's why we have a telephone. Lie. What was privatized was Nitel. I don't know how many Nigerians use a Nitel line.
None under.
The lines we use today are licenses that were sold. And there's a very fine distinction between privatizing an asset and selling a license under a law that you did not enact.
Okay, that's fair. Question.
Okay, let's just quickly follow up since, you know, just on Monday, the 2nd of January, the governor of Lagos State was on set here, and we had asked whether what he felt about Asiwaju's candidacy. Also, he talked laudably about it. And I would like to know, since he is also running, you've governed the state where he's governing now, what do you think about his performance so far? And would you also vote for him? Not because he's from the party that you belong to anyway, but what do you think?
See, again, it's always what is on the other side. And this morning, I would vote for him, without a doubt. I'm going to campaign for him. I'm coming back home to campaign because I love this period. So because I can go to the electorate with our results. That's the kind of politics that I love. But for me, leave all of the heavy lifting, all the infrastructure and all of it. Just imagine what life would have been if Governor Sanwo-Olu was not in charge when the COVID virus broke out. Just imagine those first incident cases, if they had disappeared into Nigeria. And it's almost similar to what happened during Ebola.
Yes.
So all of the hardware that we're talking about, he's finishing the rail, he's completed housing. Yes, but it is only for the living. How many more people? If that is one reason, healthcare and ensuring that we all stayed alive maximally as much as possible, he deserves my vote and as many of the 7 million registered voters in Lagos.
What's your relationship with him? Because I'd asked him, what's your relationship with him?
He calls me Egbon. And we have a good relationship. We still spoke, I think, on the third day of the year.
Right.
I was heading for Abuja, and I was hoping I could catch him in
Okay.
Abuja.
Let me get
We're
it.
in regular contact.
So sad.
And so, just to say that, of course, there's always room for improvement, but I won't discuss room for improvement by writing letters to him. I have a direct channel.
To call him.
call him.
So nobody talks about Lagos State without your name dropping in one way or the other. And
Fashola
even,
was
yes, where he did this, where he did that. Even right now, you know, everyone is still commending your work that you did in Lagos State. And they would like to know if and when APC goes on to the next administration, would you be participating in any way?
As a
In a
minister.
public office, as a
do you want to
minister,
retire?
or are you going home? But they don't want you to go home. They're saying, will you come back?
I have been extremely privileged by this country. So whether it's in terms of the education I received here or the opportunities to serve at the highest levels, and at the time I did, I became chief of staff to this state at 39. So became her governor at 44. And I've run that race for 21 years now. I sincerely need a break. But that said, whatever is left of my life is to continue to serve. And it will be in different positions under consultation. Maybe not necessarily a 9-to-5 job anymore.
I want you to talk to something
I
really...
need to catch my breath.
I want you to talk to something really important, because a lot of, as the campaigns are ongoing, people are using religion as a tool. You're married to a Christian, you're a Muslim. And I'd like you to share your thoughts on how all the organizations that should know better are using this, our people, let's vote our own, let's vote your own, you know, and they're making it a religious vote, not an objective vote on issues. What has been done, what can be done, and who has the ability to do it. What are your thoughts on this, and how do you think we can dissuade from using religion as a political tool in this season?
I think the best way to dissuade it is to defeat those who reach out to those arguments. I remember when we wanted to raise sukuk funding, and people, whether in ignorance or mischief or a combination of both, said, oh, they were going to use it to Islamize Nigeria. But that sukuk funding is part of what is funding Lagos or Abeokuta Road. I'm sure Yakub does not care where the money comes from. He wants it done. That money has helped to complete local Weto Road. It is funding 75, across Nigeria. And what we did was, the first sukuk was raised during Mrs. Kemi Adeosun's time as finance minister, and it was 100 billion. And she said, oh, BRF, I have this problem. They say that some people are opposed to it. I said, just give me the money. And we divided it into six zones, 16.6 million per zone. I said, let's call a press conference and ask any zone that does not want sukuk money to come out and say they don't want. Nobody answered. So who does not want a sukuk built road now? They are now asking for more. So it's a very base argument. It doesn't address the fundamentals of what we need to do. So when you get to hospital, do you ask for Christian blood when you are dying? Or do you ask for a Muslim surgeon when you need emergency care? Or when the pangs of childbirth holds you, do you say it must be somebody of your own faith who must be your midwife? And as you said, these things have no resonance in my own home. My father was Muslim. My mother is Anglican. I grew up in the Anglican church, in St. Jude's Church, Ibutemeta. Before I just said as an adult, okay, Mommy, I'm leaving you. I'm going to worship like my father. But how you worship and all of that really doesn't define the important thing. Do you serve God? So my wife is a dame of the Catholic Church, a title holder in that church, so is her mother. And we haven't had a religious conversation in our house. She fasts with me during Ramadan, cooks for all of the people, wakes up to cook for me. I join her sometimes in Lent. I'm a bad faster. Hey, in our homes, Christmas, New Year, Salah, Ramadan, Eid, everybody is together. I have 8 siblings. There are Christians among them. the Muslims among them. But we're one big happy family.
Amazing.
Those issues don't come up. And they don't come up in the Nigerian space unless by those who want to manipulate us, who have an interest to serve. Let us teach ourselves and our children to walk away from them.
Okay, sir. So Mohammed Ibrahim would be happy you answered it to that question because he had asked something in that line as well. But Lawansin Adewale is asking, so he's taking us back to roads. He says, Honorable Minister, sir, Ugeli to Port Harcourt has been under construction for only God knows. Then Calabar to Ogoja was constructed by RCC in 1983. Now it is a death trap. Abuja, Kaduna, Zaria, Kano Road used to be 4 hours to Kano. Now you can try it in 8 hours. You would like to hear?
Okay, so if you travel Abuja to Kano over the Christmas, you will see that Kano to Zaria, 137 kilometers almost done. There was no barrier on it during Christmas. The feedback I got was very, very positive. Zaria to Kaduna, about 70 odd kilometers, is about a 30-minute drive now. So where work remains is the Abuja to Kaduna end of it. And if you have any disagreements with that, you go and see what's going on. It's work in progress. On the Ogoja Road, Calabar Road, if you say a road was constructed in 1983, that would be about 40 years ago to the day. So roads have design lives of between 20 and 30 years. So clearly, it's outlived its design life, and that's why you will see that we have Sematech, we have Julius Berger, and I don't remember quite the name of the third contractor, working between Calabar to Udupani, all the way to Alesi, Ugep, and that area. So
Okay.
we are-
I have 3 minutes.
contractors.
Again, I have 3 minutes. Let me make my
Okay, there's just one last question. Koan Balogun says, we would like, a lot of people are tweeting about your form of leadership, but he is also advancing. He says, we would like to have a mentorship fellowship program. There's a lot to learn from him, by extension, the next generation of leaders. So do you have a mentorship society or body or whatever? How are you training young leaders?
It's a very important point you make. And yes, many of the young people who worked with me have also blossomed, and I'm enthused to see what they're doing in their careers in different ways: medicine, health, sports, talent management, law, broadcasting. There's so many of them. And that is something possibly to fall back into on a sustained scale. But I just wanted to take the point that I wish that we acknowledge that between 1999 and now, we've had like 99, 2003, 2007, 2011, 2015, at least 5 streams or thereabouts. Governors, senators, House of Rep members, those are our resource persons now. Those are the people who should be coming on all these shows to come and share practical experience as against those who are dealing in the theories. And to come and tell you how real and possible or impossible some of the theories that I hear bandied on TV and on radio are, as from its reality. And there are also people that the universities today can begin to recruit as visiting lecturers to come and share with students what the theory and the practical look like. As I tell people when they teach you engineering when I was in power, they don't teach you that people are going to go and cut your transformer in the bush. And when they are teaching you banking and finance in class, they don't teach you that there's going to be round tripping. It's when you get into real life that you come and deal with it. And those are experiences that we
I know we have
must
less than a
leverage.
minute left. Any final words you want to say to Nigerians there? Obviously, Mariam asked if you accept a new position in future.
Any final word is that
final words to Nigerians.
we must all turn out to keep the APC government in office.
How do you convince the youth for that?
They understand, the youth understand, they've been listening to me, they understand what we have been doing, and they must understand that we cannot have the economy that we want without continuing the kind of investments that we have made. They understand that the challenges are many, But clearly, we are better to be entrusted with these challenges than those who have managed it before. And those who have not demonstrated any proven capacity should not come near this enterprise.
All right, that's all we can take. Thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure having you on the show.
The pleasure.
Hopefully, we'll bring you back again before the elections.
I'll be glad to come if you invite me.
Yeah, always invited.
We've been speaking with the Honorable Minister of Works and Housing, Honorable Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola. Babatunde Raji. I used to
You are calling me
Babajide.
my brother's name.
We are always calling
Sanwo-Olu.
our Sanwo-Olu. That was Babatunde Raji Fashola, BRF. Thank you so much for joining us. That's all we can take on today's show. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.